Well, hello everyone. Hope you guys are having an awesome Tuesday. I know this is not the typical day that I stream or Natalie streams, and it's just me tonight. I've got a special guest with me. Since it's Halloween season, it's Halloween time. I thought it would be a good time to discuss we watch a lot of movies around here for the first time, if you haven't noticed. And I figured it would be a good time to go back and revisit. Now I've watched several horror movies. You guys know I've said this before that growing up as a kid, even as a teen, I was quite the chicken and didn't watch a lot of horror movies. So that's why there's so many that I've not seen. And but in doing the first time watching reactions, I found some that I really appreciate, really like. And tonight we're going to be discussing the one that I would say is probably my favorite that I have watched in the horror genre. Well, I mean, Scream holds a very dear place to me. I've already rewatched Scream for this Halloween season. But as far as what I think is probably the best of the horror movies that I have watched, and that is The Shining. And tonight I'm joined, I'm not but with my other half, Natalie here, but I am with Greg from Fan Scenes Video. Good to have you, Greg.
Hello. Sorry, I'm not Natalie.
Yeah, you're not Natalie, but it's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
Natalie will be back Monday, guys. You can get her then.
Yeah.
But how you doing, Greg?
I'm good. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. And for those of you out there wondering, I thought Greg would be the best person I could ask because he is always my go-to guy, him, and I see Tom.
Yeah.
I see Tom in the chat.
What this?
Him and Greg are the two people I always ask about movies, but I always go to when I'm asking about horror and horror, that word, and specifically.
I do that all the time.
It's a tough one sometimes. I always reach out to Greg, and he gives me his thoughts because you are a big horror guy.
Yeah, I am. And since we're talking The Shining tonight, I'm also a physical media guy. I brought along my VHS of The Shining.
There you go. The Shining.
Yeah.
Man,
I was not kind and I did not rewind. So I just thought I'd bring that on just for fun.
I remember that. Speaking of Tom, I see Tom in the chat. How you doing, Tom? Good to have you. And DL, hello, Michelle. Hope you're feeling better. I feel pretty good today, but it's still, you can still kind of hear it. It's still not the best. But thank you, DL. I appreciate that. But tonight we are going to get into this movie is iconic. It is iconic. Mm-hmm. Let me go ahead, pull up this image that I got. Tonight we're going to be discussing The Shining. Mm-hmm. And Greg, I can't remember if I reached out to you about this one or not last year when we watched it.
Maybe.
I don't know.
It was a year ago. You might have.
It was a year ago. It's been a while, but we watched it. It was one of those movies. You can tell me maybe what your experience was with it, and then we'll get into the discussion. It's one of those movies that, for starters, it's over 2 hours, but the movie like captivates you from the second, like literally the second the movie opens with that haunting score that is accompanying such pretty visuals. And it really never lets up and doesn't give up your attention throughout the entire 2 hours. And like, it's not quite, I don't think is it 30 minutes? It might be 2 hours and 30 minutes. I'd have to look that up, but
I'll look on the back of the case here. It used to tell you back then.
It's about 2.5 hours.
144 minutes. Yeah, it's 2 hours and 24 minutes.
Yes. So it's close. But it just flies by. Because this movie is it's fascinating. It's an absolutely and now I can't speak. Fascinating movie. I see Tom in there. Tom, are you wanting in? You have to let me know. But anyways, it was one of those that after I watched it for the first time, I had to go to the internet and watch like all these videos on what people thought about The Shining, because it's one of these movies that like once you watch, like you can't just like watch it and walk away. Yeah. Like your brain's got to process what you watched. It's got to like go through like, what did all this mean? And I found myself genuinely for about 3 or 4 days like my mind was just locked into The Shining and like obsessed with.
Now imagine seeing sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
Oh
off.
no, not at all.
To imagine seeing that back when you were younger with no internet to go to,
Oh, it'd been
and all the
horrible.
theories go in your head after you see it, because it is a very captivating movie. Because, like you said, right from the get go, you get the score, you get the beautiful visuals, and you get these long, long shots, and like it's just it immediately pulls you in, and you're wondering because like there's a sense of dread, but
Yes.
also beauty at the
Yes.
same time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you're going into right into my like my first point that I had for the night of what I think. So where do you rank this? For me, okay, I've never seen The Exorcist, which people love. For me, out of the movies I've seen, and that granted that is limited, uh, I will say that this is my favorite horror movie. If I would say what is the best horror movie that I've seen, it is The Shining. What would you say yours is? I know
See, that's
I know Tom out there, his is The Exorcist and Nightmare on Elm Street. But what about
yes.
you?
That's a tough question for me because I like so much. I really, really do. I'm always hard to pin down on what your favorite is, but yes, I do like The Shining. I would rate that as near the top of my list of an all-time great horror movie. I'm a huge Nightmare on Elm Street fan as well. I do love The Exorcist, so like that's all within my wheelhouse. That's why me and Tom get along. So
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, that's all up in my wheelhouse. So yes, I would consider because I'm typically a slasher guy. That's my
Yes.
favorite
Yes.
subgenre of horror is like the slasher stuff. I'm not like a big ghost story guy, but this is so much more than just a ghost story, which I know we're going to get into because there's so many theories to this.
Well, and what would you say the genre of this is? Because it's not a slasher. So is it a ghost story? Is that what you would call this?
Possibly it's like
It's
I
like its
just
own thing. It's like
yeah,
it's hard to even say what it is.
I was just there's this thing called the In Search of Darkness documentaries, which covers horror movies, and that's one of the things they're going to be talking about in the upcoming documentary is what do you label horror? You don't label horror. It's anytime you start labeling it, that's when it becomes something it's not.
Yeah,
So it could be a thriller, a ghost story, a slasher. It could be a psychological thing, but it's all horror. It's like a hybrid.
it is. It
Yeah.
really is. But you kind of already nailed, you already said something that I think one of the things that stands out in this movie so much that I think makes it definitely in the conversation of being one of the best horror movies ever made is the sense, you use the word, the sense of dread. It's like there is this eerie sense of
Yeah.
dread that is with you again from the moment the movie begins. That opening shot, like you said, it's beautiful, it's serene. They're out in
Hmm.
I mean, just gorgeous part of the country that's supposed to be in Colorado. I don't know exactly where they shot it, but I don't know if you know that off the top of your head.
It might have actually been Colorado if I
Was
remember
it?
correctly.
If not, I would guess like a Canada because it's so pretty.
I think this was when they actually still filmed in America.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Back before taxes were so ridiculous.
Yeah,
But you just get that opening.
Oregon.
Oregon. Okay, yeah.
Oregon.
I mean, Oregon, I'm sure is beautiful.
Mhm.
You just get that opening, like you said, this mix of this beauty, this raw beauty of like what you're seeing, the scene that you're seeing of just the mountains and the water and just this little road that's looping around. But with that little road and with how big everything feels, and you see this little car, you also get the
Yeah.
sense of you're going somewhere where no one is, that's very isolated.
Yes.
And you get that right from the beginning with that haunting score. I love scores,
Yeah.
and the score to the Shining is almost enough for me to watch the movie.
Yes. I just saw something about that. It's actually like an old music piece that means something about dying. So
Ah.
it's also actually Tom would know this. You should know a little bit. It's also used in A Clockwork Orange in a way.
Oh, is the same music, like the
Yeah,
same?
a similar sounding. It's like sort of the same music piece, but it's not quite the same.
Gotcha. Yeah, so you've got this sense of just eeriness that begins to build literally from the moment it starts to when, and that's what I love about this movie too. when I say this, people could think, oh, you're saying it's slow. I'm not. This movie is a builder.
Mm-hmm.
Like but yet it's not a slow builder. It's
No.
like it's patient as it builds, but you're intrigued the entire time. And again, even from the first shot, you feel this eeriness, but just everything about this movie is designed to make you feel
Yeah.
not at ease. The
Just very
opposite.
uncomfortable. Just very
Oh,
right off the bat.
incredibly.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. And is there anything in particular that you want to add to that as far as the vibe, the eeriness
No,
that Kubrick is able to create?
Yeah, Kubrick was a master at this, and what it is, it's like it's a big theme throughout the entire. Hey, look, it's Natalie. Hi. It's a big theme throughout the movie. It's like it's very beautiful on top, but
Yes.
underneath, which there's so many, like I'll get to so many instances on that. But underneath, it's not beautiful at all. And one of the things, like with Stephen King, who notoriously hated The Shining, Stanley Kubrick's Shining, he was supposed to do the first draft of the script. Kubrick threw it out. That started the whole thing. He actually, I think, if I remember, he wanted John Voight as Jack.
Really?
Because within the book,
he's a good actor, but
yeah, he is. Within the book and the story, it's you're not supposed to know he's crazy from the get. And they say with Jack Nicholson, as soon as you see him, you think, oh, he's crazy.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's supposed to be that's once again, that's the whole, like, it's supposed to look like a normal, happy family.
Yes. And you don't get that sense. Almost, from the very beginning, they tell Jack Nicklaus' character, Jack, it was easy to remember for everyone.
Yeah.
They tell him the story of how this caretaker chops up his family, and he's just like, not gonna be a big deal. Who cares? Like, you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yes, the sense of eeriness, that's why I pulled up the shot. Something as simple as a little boy riding his little bike around this massive hotel. The shots they capture, again, everything is designed to make, like, it's these wide shots where you feel how big and empty this hotel is. And even just simple shots, there's something and maybe you can speak more to this. What is so fascinating even about watching Danny just go around the corner? I guess it's because you don't know what's gonna be around the corner.
I'll tell you right now why you see this as uneasy, why it's weird and fascinating. Take a look at the wall there where the steps are. You see that pole going down?
Yes.
That step's going down, right? See how wide the wall is? Look at there's doors to rooms there. There's no possible way there could be rooms right there. That's going down.
Oh, yes. I see what you're
talking.
He's talking about right here. There's no way there could be a room in this where this door is.
And that happens several times in the movie, especially this scene in particular where he's riding it around, because he goes in almost a circle, but the way he goes in a circle is not possible. It's like with the hotel, which is when you get to the meat of it, I think the hotel is an entity of itself. I don't think it was traditionally haunted. As they mentioned in the movie, it's built on an Indian burial ground, which was removed, which you never do that in a horror movie or a story at all, because that's grounds for hauntings right off the bat. Right? So I believe that the hotel is an evil entity itself, where within the hotel, time is constantly in flux, where it's not quite. That's why everything seems weird and uneasy. Once again, it's very beautiful on the outside, it's very beautiful on the inside, but it's very dark. There's something wrong with it. It doesn't look right. There can't be rooms there. He can't have turned that many times and ended up in the same place.
Yes. It's a good point. And there's just so much stuff that I think Kubrick does so well to throw off the audience of what is going on.
Yes.
I'm trying to think of another example of how eerie, just eerie is the word you'd use, like in this. The scene in particular, the scene where Danny goes in and Jack is on the bed, just like staring.
Yeah.
And he films that where you are so on the edge of your seat with just this little boy sitting on his father's lap. And you're like, wow.
Yeah.
Like
There's
they just,
a
yeah, they just
yeah.
do that so many times throughout this movie where there's such an uneasiness, even with things where there shouldn't be an
Mhm.
uneasiness.
Well, there's an underlying thing here again as well too. Is like the whole thing is like with Jack, he's clearly been abusive to Danny,
Yes.
and possibly he'd been abusive in more ways than one.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I caught that. And I'll tell you, okay, I've only watched it twice, but I see Natalie's in the chat. I actually text her when I rewatched this for the first time where I really just got to sit down, not being recorded, and watch it on my big screen, which is it's nice. And I noticed something that I think they planted, I think was very wisely planted that I totally did not pick up on a first watch. And that is the fact that you are informed immediately in this movie, once it goes to Wendy. You are informed that no, actually, Jack says in the hotel when they're asking, he
Mhm.
says, "I used to be a teacher."
Mhm.
Okay, so he used to be a teacher. They moved from Vermont to Colorado. He's no longer teaching. It makes your brain say, "What happened?"
And that is a common theme within the Stephen King stories. He's actually used that a couple times. He also uses that same sort of thing, but in a reverse, where the dad is actually a good guy in the movie. In the story, sometimes they come back. He used to be a teacher in Chicago. He maybe got rough with one of his students, and they had to get fired, and then he had to move his family somewhere else. That happens in the story. Sometimes they come back, but in that, the dad's a good guy. He just has a bit of a temper, and he's doing what's right. In this, however, it's clearly has to do with alcoholism
Yes,
and
yes, because
other
that is
things.
brought up.
Mhm.
Yeah, because you even get with, and that just moves us into, we can discuss, and we'll probably come back because again, dread runs throughout this movie.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that just sets the tone of this movie.
Yeah.
But another thing that makes this movie to me a classic, and not only do I think one of the best horror movies, I can't speak of all time here because there's so many movies I've not seen, but I think this movie is up there in just films in general, like not even just in that
Yeah.
genre. I think it's so well done. And one of the reasons, of course, we've already got on to Stanley Kubrick and everything the decision he makes to make this sense of dread throughout this movie and the shots he gets. But also just the actors themselves. Uh,
Yeah.
we'll start with Jack Nicholas as Jack. I said to Natalie, you let me know what you think. I think he does such a good job. Like in the last, we'll say 6 years or so, I think Joaquin Phoenix's performance as Joker is one of the best acting uh,
Mhm.
performances I've watched. I feel like Jack Nicholas in this movie is as good or better than Joaquin Phoenix in
Oh, yeah,
Joker.
definitely.
Like
Definitely.
he's fantastic in this
It
movie.
it's perfect. This is probably his best role. This made him the star he is. Jack Nicholson is good in pretty much anything he does. Even movies that are not very good, he's like the best highlight of the movie. But no,
Yes.
yes, this is like his probably the greatest performance he's given. You can tell he went into this and gave it everything he had. Just like, and plus with Kubrick, when you know all the stories about what he did to Shelley Duvall, possibly, and Scatman Crothers and everybody else on the set. So,
He
yeah,
was a perfectionist.
yeah.
But even just like that face there, it's like,
Mhm.
and he's good throughout this movie, but as the movie progresses, his acting, it just goes to like the next level. And by the time you get him alone in the gold ballroom and that whole scene, and you brought up the alcoholism because I think that plays
Mhm.
into it because he doesn't start to see the ghost, if we want to call them that, until he says that he would sell his soul for a glass of beer. And
Yes.
then all of a sudden, the ghosts appear.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I was just watching something about this as well because I never thought about it myself. But supposedly, he had been sober for 3 years because they say 3 years ago was the incident with their child, right?
Okay.
And supposedly, because it has something to do with alcohol, he's supposed to be sober for 3 years. And then in this scene, when he gets that and he goes 5 months off the and he's going to go off the wagon. So that's how long they'd been there, I believe, by that point. So he'd actually had been still drinking in those 3 years, and he had been sober those whole months they've been in the thing up until that point. And there's a theory that maybe he himself has the shining, and that alcohol dulls the senses, and the hotel knows that and knows he's easily manipulated, whereas Danny's stronger, so they want to get rid of Danny, so they're using Jack, and that's what's driving him mad.
Okay, that's
But
interesting.
it's so many theories. I'm like, no,
There are endless theories on this
Yeah.
movie. And let's see. I mean, it's like, where do you start with Jack Nicklaus as far as his acting performance on this one? The whole scene in the bar with just him, it's basically a monologue that they would have recorded. His facial expressions and you know, the way Wendy blames me for what I did to that boy. I would never touch that boy, but then he goes on to tell you how he did harm that boy, you know, type stuff, and just his facial expressions. I know Natalie was saying when we were recording our reaction, like it could almost give like a woman PTSD who had been in an abusive relationship, but yet you're almost sitting there smiling watching it, because let's go to the infamous like staircase scene. Like his acting and facial expressions are so just like pointed, and his vocal expressions towards you are so threatening, but yet there's something like, as an audience, you're just like captivated watching this performance.
Yeah.
Because it's so cuckoo.
And he's also so calm.
Yes, and that adds the crazy feel somehow.
I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just going to bash your, you know.
Yeah, I'm just going to bash your brains out. Like it just, yes, absolutely. Yeah. So he does an absolute incredible job. And literally just that you watch the chaos that kind of, or his descent into madness. Now, where are you? Because I know, as far as Stephen King didn't like how he changed his character. When I've listened to the differences of what Kubrick did to from King's, I like what Kubrick did better.
Yes.
Because from the very beginning with this character, with Jack's character, he does not care about his family. No. He is never like sweet to his son. His son is an annoyance to him. That is obvious. That is expressed from his own mouth in this movie.
Yep.
He has such contention for his wife, Wendy. And you just see that through. So my feeling is this is already a guy, again, that's why I brought up them saying they moved. And I think they're indicating there was a reason why they made this move and why he's no longer a teacher. I'm more of I like the way they did it, where it's like Jack is not a good guy when this movie begins, and it only takes a little push from this evil entity at this hotel to make him just totally lose it.
I agree with you that what Kubrick did to the story is so much better than the book. And typically with Stephen King books, especially his older books, usually the books are better than the movies, but the movies are typically pretty good, given the right director. But Kubrick nailed this one. He made it better in every way, as far as I'm concerned. And the less is said about the miniseries The Shining that Stephen King claims is the true version.
Yes.
This one right here, this is the one you want to see, because Kubrick, he did it right. He made the appropriate changes. He did what every person should do when you adapt a story. He changed it in the right spots where it needed to be changed.
Yes, I know. I agree. I totally agree. And, you know, rewatching this a second time, someone else, of course, Jack Nicklaus steals the show, but I realized watching this a second time that this movie genuinely would not be what it is either without Shelley Duvall. That her portrayal as Wendy really helps set the tone, because when this starts, of course, you see she covers up his abuse. Or kind of very ashamedly tries to make it less than. And you see her throughout this movie try so hard to make things good. And in fact, she's the one doing Jack's job, like throughout the hotel. And she just tries. And he's so awful to her throughout this movie. But I just really don't think I just think Shelley Duvall somehow pulls off this character that you don't think that much of. And yet, even one of the what's his name? The ghost says to Jack later when she's knocked him out with the bat and put him in that room, that basically he has underestimated Wendy.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a theme too with both the boy with Danny and Wendy, that they both are kind of underestimated throughout this movie, and then both of them, of course, are the survivors, but actually we see very capable as this movie begins to unfold.
They got that whole survivors of abuse, which those people have a strength to them, where they, you know, because they've been abused, they've been in this for so long, they have this strength within them that most people overlook and underestimate. And Shelley Duvall is absolutely amazing in this movie. And you're right, she does all the work. Meanwhile, he's going mad, he's drinking, he's writing on the typewriter, all work, no play makes Jack a dull boy, and she's just trying to keep her family together. She just wants her family to be together, holding on to something that she really needs to let go. And so her and Danny really do have this strength about them that's often overlooked.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and speaking of Danny, I don't know the kid's name who played him, but he does an excellent job with all his reacting and facial expressions that he does in this movie.
Yeah, he does a great job.
Yeah, you really buy him. You brought up that scene. What is the quote? My brain, now that we're in the all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
Oh, yeah.
It's scenes like that this movie just does such a good job. There's such good payoffs. Like they work up to this moment, and like say that moment in particular, that's when the movie just it's gone totally off the rails, but in a good way.
Yeah.
When you see that's the work he's been doing all this time.
Yeah. That's when she fully discovers, you know, my husband's really not there. He's
gone. He's fully gone. It's time to go. But another little details. Say like even Shelley Duvall, the way it caught my attention when she has him locked up in the pantry. And even then, even after she knows he's crazy, he's told her he's going to smash her brains in. I mean, he's awful.
Yeah.
And when she's has them locked up, even the way Shelley Duvall says the line, something like she goes, "I'm gonna go now." Like there's just such an innocence to Shelley Duvall's portrayal of this Wendy character that just somehow really works with this movie.
It's that human relatability, right?
Yes.
You can see, even if you yourself have never been abused or you've never been in these situations, you relate to that because you hear her say that and you go, I would probably say something like that. Yeah, that's where you get. So you relate. That's why Danny and her are so overlooked. Like they're like the audience. They're like you. You can relate to them more than you can relate to Jack, and that's why you feel this connection to them, and you want to see them. Please don't let anything bad happen to him. Please don't let anything bad happen to him. You know?
Oh, exactly. Yeah. When you get to the here's Johnny to that point, you're just like, oh gosh, how is she gonna get out of this room? Definitely.
Yeah, which is funny because that scene where he does that with the axe is actually like there's this movie from 1921, by the way. It's from 1921, where they basically recreate that axe scene from that movie. And that's very important, especially with the year of 1921, which if you know the ending to the movie.
With this movie or another movie?
The Shining.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Just look at the picture at the end of the movie.
Okay. And there's just so many good moments. And any moment that stands out to you in this movie that you're like, wow, that's like the moment that really gets you.
Let's see. It's got a lot of wow moments in it.
It does actually.
It does, because you got the whole when they go when he, like you mentioned, when he goes to the hotel, it's like this weird, and the twins. Of course, we haven't even talked about the twins.
Yes, we haven't gotten to those little twins. You can go ahead and talk about them.
Yeah, I think that is a big wow moment in the film, is when he comes around that corner and they're there.
And here they are.
It's frightening to see them, and then it's also more frightening once it starts flashing the the death of them.
Yes, yes.
So that is a big wow moment within the film. I think that so many people do talk about it. I do think that's when you know things are about to get really, really bad in the movie.
Yeah.
It's like not if you haven't felt it's getting bad enough, it's just got worse at that point.
It did. That's when it was like, Danny, just we were like, run him over. Just
Yeah.
just get out of there. And what do how do and how do yes, and how do you take it? Because again, things you notice on a second watch, of course, the girls say, come play with us, Danny, forever and ever. And when he is sitting on Jack's lap in that room, Jack says, don't you just wish we could stay here forever?
Yeah,
And you're like, oh.
yeah. It's nice. Once again, I think for me, I don't know how anybody else feels. I think it's the hotel.
Like rubbing off, like speaking through him almost.
Yeah, I feel like the hotel is a dark entity in and of itself. Because like within Stephen King, he has like a multiverse of his own, right? And if you notice, there's mirrors everywhere within the hotel, and the mirrors are very, very important in the movie, especially with twins. They mirror each other, right? So there's like this is what you look like on this side, but underneath the mirror, like we talk about, there's something darker there in the mirror, like a mirror universe type thing. And I think, like I said, I feel like the hotel is collecting people, especially people with the shining.
Yes.
And ones they can manipulate. And that's why there's ghosts there. I think and plus, as I said, like with the time, because they tell him, you've always been here. Even when Jack Nicholson's at the bar drinking and he goes, I've always liked you, Lloyd. You've always been my favorite or whatever. That leads you, this has happened before. This is time repeating within this hotel. So like they've been here before. This has happened before. And the hotel wants them to stay there forever and ever.
It's so creepy. And someone just corrected me. You're so right. I'm sure I called the wrong Jack Nicholson. There we go. Not Jack Nicholas, Jack Nicholson. You're right. And while you're talking, I think the moment that grabbed me the most moment for me when I was watching this the first time, and even a second time, it still gets you again, because they've just laid the groundwork so well and getting there, is the red rum. When she finally looks in the mirror and sees murder, and you're like, oh god.
Yeah. Once again, the mirror, which is very important in the movie. Very important.
Yes. And you already brought up we both brought up the scene where he's in the gold room. It's just stuff like that makes this movie unique. Like watching that for the first time, you're like, why is he in this big ballroom? Who are these people now in the ballroom?
Right.
What is going on? And even just the colors that are used, like say when he goes into the bathroom of the gold room and it's red, everything's red, or the bathroom of, what is it, room
237.
Yes, and the green, all the colors and everything that are in this movie are even fascinating.
Yes, and with the room 237, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
As you said, like with the room 237, one of the reasons I feel like they're so scared of that room is that is a room where you're not really protected. The hotel can get at you. And the woman in the bathtub, when you first see her, she's very beautiful. And then once again, when he gets to her, it becomes I feel like that is the embodiment of the hotel. It's luring Jack in there. Look how beautiful
I've never thought of it that way.
They're very beautiful. Look at me. And then once he gets in and it has him, this is my dark, true, evil self. And now I have you. So that's how I felt. Because like room 237 is a very, like the darkest place in the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, because it's the place, what's his name? The black gentleman that saves him, but technically saves him. He was like, don't go in there. Of course, Danny goes in there.
Yep.
And even speaking, and even speaking to that scene, it goes into another thing that I've already kind of addressed, but we can address more. The cinematography of this movie. Even the way the camera, say when Jack's character goes to investigate what's in the room, what actually happened to Danny, and the way the camera leads you through this room very slowly. Like they just do such a good job of, again, just paving the way for these moments throughout
Yeah,
this
yeah.
movie.
And I believe, did I say that today or saw it? I think this movie was almost shot entirely on Steadicam, which was like one of the first time that's ever been done in a movie.
Oh.
So like it's a completely Steadicam, which allows them to get those big wide shots and just like move the camera in, because the camera's not shaking or anything. You're not, it's just a completely Steadicam, and that allows you to give like this sense of like, okay, now we're going in this way, and we
Yes,
see
we're
everything
moving with them.
Yeah.
And you're right, because he does that throughout the entire movie. Like the camera just keeps moving with, like, throughout this hotel, and it really, it just adds a lot. Again, everything, there just feels like, we discussed movies today. There's just so much, you could tell so much care and thought into this movie. Like even just down to the design of the hotel itself, and how almost every hall is different. The carpet patterns in it, everything is very eye-grabbing in its own way throughout this hotel in this movie.
I think it's designed like that, like you said, with the reds and the greens, and especially the carpet, because the carpet's it's a big thing with The Shining. People always remember the carpet. People make clothes that look like the carpet from The Shining nowadays. So yes, the carpet is a big thing, a big importance in it, and especially like when you showed that where Danny's got his trucks.
Wrong one.
When he's sitting there with all his trucks there, and
I'm pulling that one back up actually. Yeah, the carpet. I mean, just look at that carpet. Even the carpet just catches your eye and is fascinating.
Exactly. And if you notice right here too, like see where the ball comes down that line
perfectly.
That's the same ball his dad was throwing at the wall. Jack's throwing at the wall.
Yes.
Right? And if you go back to because you had the other picture up, if you can bring back that other picture up with him like that, just like that, I'm going to show you something else you may not have noticed.
The little boy riding,
the little boy with the trucks, just like this. You had another picture very similar to this.
Let me see if I think it might be this one. 1 second. Let me pull this up.
Yeah, because I'm going to show you something here.
And that's where I'm saying there's just so much detail in this movie.
Very, very much. Okay, there's no line in front of him, and now it's behind him. See where the ball is? There's no like black line there. It's been reversed.
See, and you're so right. It's little stuff like that just like it's subconsciously playing with your brain, like as you're watching it.
It's all designed to mess with your mind. That's why some people have theory it's all in their heads. It never really happened. Some people have a theory it's haunting. Some people, like me, I believe it's an entity. I believe the hotel is an entity of itself, a dark entity that's the host. It's been possessed by whatever, something of its own. So yeah, and it's constantly playing with your mind throughout this whole movie. Reverse, mirror, all that stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Well, since you brought that up, let's get into. There are so many theories on this movie. I've listened to a lot of them. A lot of them make convincing cases.
Right.
But then, like, the more I thought about it, and then especially watching it my second time, I actually believe this movie is straightforward. And I know that sounds crazy to people because it's like this movie where you're like, what's going on? What's happening? Type of thing. And there's so many theories around it. But I mean that it's straightforward in this sense. I think Stanley tells us all that we actually need to know. Like, as far as, like, I think we get from this movie, you can get everything that you should get watching it. And I think for me, this movie ultimately at its heart is they made a villain out of an abusive husband, and they put him, a man who's already not a good guy. He isolates his family in the most secluded place.
Mm-hmm.
They play along the lines of seclusion and what that can do to people. And I really think that is at its heart. And then it just is set, as you said, at this hotel that either I think you may have a good point of it itself almost being an evil entity, but regardless, there's an evil entity at work at this hotel. Either way, it's, something. And I think it's pretty much that straightforward. That I think they're actually okay. So do you think so like when Jack gets out of the pantry, you are left to believe the ghost opened the door.
Yes.
I feel like probably the ghost just opened the door. Like, I feel like that's probably what Stanley Kubrick was going for. I watched like a 30-minute video on how Danny actually opened the door. And I'm like, no, I really think Danny did not open that door. I think the ghost opened the door.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I believe I agree with you on the thing that everything you see is laid out perfectly in front of you for you to
Yes.
figure this out. I really do, because I don't think anything is
Hidden
out of
in a
place by
way.
design. I think
Yes.
it's all placed in there by design. And yes, I do believe that is a ghost letting Jack out of there. You know, he's sort of like, that's him cementing his deal with the devil, as it were. Because you brought up like, I'd sell my soul for the drink. I think that's him pretty much cementing, him cementing the deal to this evil devil entity, whatever it is that is controlling this hotel, whether it be the hotel or whatever. And that's him cementing it, because they'll let him out. You kill them, you're with us forever.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's a really good point. Now, why do you think in this movie? Okay, because Jack goes in to investigate, which is interesting because Jack can obviously shine just as much as the boy can shine. And really, I mean, shining in this movie really is just kind of almost like psychic abilities in a way. Like you can see like almost future, past, which of course Danny at the very beginning when he keeps seeing the blood gushing through the hallways, I think it was just a pre-warning of what was coming or what was there and lurking. But clearly Jack himself can shine on some level because he sees things in this movie.
Exactly.
So why do you think, what is your theory as to why when he comes back to the room after investigating the room no one's supposed to go into, why do you think he lies to Wendy?
I don't think he wants to get caught. I don't think he wants it to be known.
He don't want to be caught with the old
no, I don't
corpse.
think he. I think he. there's a bit of a shame to that, right? Because like he thought it was a beautiful woman, turned out to be an ugly woman, and he's married. And even if he's crazy, he's not going to want to tell anybody that story, especially his wife. So I think he's a little ashamed of everything, but he's still working that in his mind. He's being manipulated, and like we said, like the alcohol dulls the shine. So like once he started drinking and everything, it's dulling him, and so it's like it's messing with his mind so much more than he's accustomed to, because he's already crazy enough as it is, what he did with his son and everything, and you know, so like it's just like you don't want to tell anybody, hey, I was in this room and I saw something, and I'm not gonna say that to anybody.
Well, see, I appreciate your answer there because I think it's probably the most like rational. Like it probably isn't some big theory. It really is just like shame, like in a way.
It's truly just shame. I mean, seriously,
like
especially as a guy. I mean,
yes. Yeah, no, I agree with that. And so what do you think? Because again, I do believe the ghosts are real in this movie. I think that he is seeing actual like ghost. So like when he gets his drink that he, says he will sell his soul for, is that real? Or is it in his mind?
That's what plays on you, because I do too think the ghosts are real. Like I said, I believe this hotel or whatever this entity is has been collecting these people, and they're there. They're the ghosts, Like like they mentioned the caretaker, the one that chopped up his family. I believe Grady. Yeah, and the one guy he talks to in the bathroom, his name is Grady too,
but
he
not
has
a
different
first name,
which leads you to believe that this has all happened. Because he was the father of the twin girls, and he took the axe to them. So this has constantly happened throughout time. This hotel has been playing this out. So I just you don't know if he really sold his soul for a drink, if that was in his head, but I do believe the ghosts are there. Maybe the bartender himself was another manifestation of the entity or whatever you want to call it. Who knows? It's just it's hard to, that one's hard to put down because you don't really know, because it's acted so well and shot so well. I would like to believe that yes, he did get the drink there.
Yeah, you want to believe like everything's real that like is being touched and stuff.
I do believe that he got the drink, and maybe he did talk to that person. So I do believe, like, especially when he says, "I'll sell my soul."
Yes.
I
And
really
then it
believe that was,
appears. It's like,
yeah, I
boom,
really
it's
believe,
there.
because they're like, regardless of how you feel about Stephen King now, because I'm not a big, he's
Yeah, I
lost
understand.
his mind. He is a Catholic, or at least he was at one point in time. So I do believe there is some religious symbolism within the whole scenario.
And selling your soul and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I can see that. And we'll get to that. I'll save that for last, Rob. So just remind me if I don't. I'll remember. We'll get to that in just a second. Yeah, no, I think you're right, and I really do just view the end like that picture, because even the end, the final shot of this movie leaves you like, what? What did I
Exactly.
just watch? But I know I've listened to Stanley Kubrick say that it really just kind of spoke to reincarnation, as far as like this evil entity keeps reproducing,
Yes.
almost like evil, like it's going to keep happening
Yes.
in this hotel. I think that's a simple enough explanation for
Yeah.
me.
And it's like when I was talking about the movie from 1921, it says 1921 on the picture.
That's
So
right.
yeah,
Okay.
so it says New Year's Eve, 1921. So yeah, like the movie they copied, the act scene was from 1921. So I would assume that's a nod to that. But yes, I do believe it's constantly replaying within this hotel. There's something that, and like I said, Stephen King has his own little multiversal story that he calls the Dark Tower, where all the stories are connected through a place I believe it's called Midworld. I haven't talked Stephen King in a long time, so I grew up reading Stephen King and everything, but it's been a long time since I've talked Stephen King. I believe, if I remember, it's called Midworld, and it's like where all the stories can connect, and there are people with the shine within Midworld and everything. So like all sort of connects through like portals and everything. So
Okay. That's interesting.
yeah.
Let's see. What else do we want to say? Any other things that you think of, or any other theory that you really find fascinating, or you like me and you just think it's very straightforward?
I do think it's very straightforward. I do think there's a little something to possibly the whole Indian burial ground thing, because there is a lot of Native American stuff throughout the hotel
There
that they keep
is.
showing.
Yes.
So I do think maybe there's, yeah, like Uncaged Savage has Cursed Hotel. Speaking of which, Uncaged Savage, Indian Native American. Yes, I do think there's something to that. I do think maybe that's something like I said, in a horror movie, a story or movie, you never mess with. You never mess with
The
Indian
burial
burial
ground.
grounds. You never mess with gypsies. You never mess. You never mess with preachers and stuff like that in horror movies, because it always comes back to
You
bite
never
you in the
drink
butt.
alcohol. You never do any of these things.
You never
You
make
will
out with strange women.
no, you will
You never
die
do that.
immediately.
Nope.
It will be bad.
No, never.
But so let me go ahead and ask. Do you want to go first on this one? I
You know,
watched this movie this year, by the way, but
I've seen it one time and I thought it was kind of boring, but I've heard
I
a
did
lot of
too.
people
I
like
did
it,
too.
so I can't speak to it too much. I can't speak to too much because I remember just kind of being bored. Maybe I have to go back and give it another rewatch after going through The Shining again. So
I thought it was kind of boring. There was one scene that I thought just went a little too dark for my liking. I'll just say what it is. That they like kill a 12-year-old boy and they like
yeah,
show it. And it's just like, no.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's just no. That's all I say to that. Just say no to that scene. But
Yeah.
I thought like you said, I thought it was kind of boring. And then without ruining the end, I did not like the end. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
Um,
It's been a long time. I seen it one time, I think, when it first came out, and I was maybe I just wasn't in the mood when I saw it or whatnot. But yeah, I kind of thought it was boring.
I tend to agree. Greg, any final thoughts? Anything you think we've not covered on The Shining,
Let's
of
see.
what makes it a masterpiece?
Well, I did. It is a masterpiece. It's very from the, like we talked about, the color palette, the story, the ominous dread, the beauty of it, because there is a
Mhm.
beauty to it, but it's very dark. And I do. Somebody brought up in the chat, I think Victor there talked about Scatman Crothers' character. I think what his name was Dick, right? I think
Yes, yes,
Coleman or something.
yes. What is his last
He's
name in it?
treated so much better in the book. That's the one thing I will disagree with that Kubrick got wrong. he's treated better in the book than he is in the movie. He doesn't just die like that.
He lives in the book, I heard.
I believe so. If I remember, it's been a long time. Like I said, since I've read the books and everything. But I believe he lives in the book, if I remember correctly.
Yes, that's what I heard, is that he lives. What just happened? We lost Greg. Greg, you can come back whenever you want. But yeah, we lost him. I will say too about him, since let's see, we got Greg back. There we go.
I don't know what happened there. Just like kicked me out for a minute. My internet just like whoop, I don't know what happened. Halloran.
You know, Halloran, yes, that's his name. He because he's one of the heroes of this movie, though.
Yeah.
And I will say this, as much as I wish he would have lived, because you're like, dude went from Miami, took all this trouble to get here to save Danny because he was concerned.
Yeah.
And then he just gets an axe to the heart the second he walks in the door.
Boom. Like, no. Why?
I will say, though, even though I wish he would have lived, I already knew what was going to happen to his character. And they filmed that scene so well that I was like getting anxiety waiting for Jack to pop out. Like, because they let it really play out. Because he keeps saying, hello, anyone here? And he goes through like the whole place saying that. And then just boom, like he jumps out. And you're like, oh gosh.
Yes.
So they do at least film that well.
They did. And then, once again, that's another, like, the anxiety of the movie. The movie gives you anxiety.
It does.
With every character involved. Every character involved, it gives you anxiety of what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it so good. Again, as we're wrapping up, guys, dread, dread, dread. It builds. Jack's character goes off the deep end, but then by the end, when she's able to escape and how do you take it that she's seen the ghost at the end? That she's finally fully up and like awake, like she's finally got the blinders off her eyes? Like, how do you, what would you take as the meaning as to why Wendy finally sees the ghost at the very end of the movie?
I think she finally sees it because I think the house is finally tired of hiding, or the hotel, not the house. The hotel.
It's like it's like her husband. It's been on good behavior.
Yeah,
like in a way.
Yeah, it's down to the end game, because like if you also notice how they do the time, like they'll say 5 months.
Yes,
6
which
months,
adds to the eeriness too.
And then it starts going into days.
Yes.
Then it starts going into 4 p.m. So like it's counting down the time to where this is all going to end. And I think whatever it is knows we're at the end game here. Now or never. Jack has to kill him. No sense of hiding from her anymore. We're going to show it.
Man, I've never thought of it that way, but that is such a good way to put. And when I say like Jack, I mean the way an abuser can hide kind of the way they are until they reveal it. Yeah. And that's kind of what the hotel is. That is a good point. Mm-hmm. How she's blinded to it, but then it's just like, here it is.
It's time. Here, this is me and who I really am.
Yes. So, and I feel like we can't miss the fact that the boy, like I said, Wendy, the hotel even tells him you've underestimated Wendy, but then the boy, the way you just love that moment where you're like, how's he going to get out? But they set up and payoff is throughout this entire movie. It's like a master class of setup, payoff. Mm-hmm. And they set up him and Wendy going through that maze, and the payoff at the end of the little boy knowing to run into that maze to get away from this crazy guy. And the fact that he stops, you're like, but how's he going to outrun him? And he stops and, covers his tracks.
Yeah.
And you're just
he tricks him.
He tricks him.
Yeah.
And there's just this is what I was getting at. You feel such eeriness, anxiety, heaviness, but then by the time he gets out of the maze and gets to Wendy, you're like, yes, like you feel such relief.
Yeah.
You're like, we did it.
We made it out of because that's the whole like catharsis is like,
yes,
the abuser is gone. We can breathe.
Like they're safe. They're in the snowcat. Like they can get away.
Yeah.
They've made it through. He's now a frozen ice popsicle. Yeah. Like
it's all done. It's over. It's just relax now. I mean, their lives are changed forever.
Yeah.
Forever.
You're not walking that one off easy.
No, you're going to need a lot of therapy after that, but you're free. You're free.
Yes, and you feel that as the audience. You feel like the sense of relief and freedom by the end of this movie. And yeah, I just, if you can't tell, I think it's a masterpiece, quite
I
frankly.
agree with you. Yeah, it's I like you asked me earlier. Yeah, I would rank it up there with like The Exorcist, Psycho, Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream. I know some people don't put Scream up that high, but I do.
I do too. Scream's really good.
I like Scream. I like Scream. But because I'm a Wes Craven fan to begin with. But no, I would put all these up there at the top. I would also put up a lot of John Carpenter, like The Thing, or
the thing is a good one. It's really
yeah. And
or like Alien.
Yes, Alien.
I don't think to throw Alien in as much because it's not really like a Halloween-y movie, but it is a horror movie.
But here's the thing is like, was it Ridley Scott said it? He said it's just Halloween in space.
It is Halloween in space.
Yeah,
that's very.
He said
true.
he just copied Halloween in space for some of it. So no, it's sci-fi horror. I would also one of my other favorite ghost stories is John Carpenter's The Fog. I think that's a great ghost story.
I've never seen that one.
It's fun. Well,
okay.
It's scary.
Okay.
Maybe it's a traditional ghost story. Like I say, it's scary, but then some people say it. But it's a traditional ghost story. It's about a small New England town. It's sort of got like these like vibes and stuff. And there's creepy fog rolls in, and there just might be ghosts in those fog. So
okay, it sounds fun. It sounds fun.
Yeah.
No, I like this. Yeah. Let me grab some of these. Haywood Jablomi has been a member for 2 months. I try to watch this movie every Halloween. Rocky Horror Picture Show, another great picture. Cheers from Canada, gifting incoming. Well, we actually, Haywood, Staccato sent in $150 for us to react to the Rocky Horror Picture Show. So that is going to be a reaction coming very soon. And Haywood Jablomi with 5, and then another one 6.
Wow.
And another one 7. Gifted, another one 8 gifted memberships. My gosh. Well, even though it's not a live stream, guys, I'm still going to play the gifted membership. You know what's coming. There we go. Thank you so much for those gifted memberships. Wow. Thank you. Really appreciate that, man.
Yes.
What did she say? Saying that one. What did I say? Probably horror.
Oh,
I think she just means the name. His name. Well, Fog is
The Fog is a good old school ghost. Just a good old classic ghost story. Nothing like overcomplicated about it. It's pretty straightforward ghost story.
Sometimes straightforward's the best.
Yeah,
it's
got a sense of dread to it itself. So
okay, I'll have to put that on the list. And Raji, thank you so much for your gifted membership. I'm going to do it one more time, guys. Thank you for that. But I think that's pretty much it as far as our discussion on The Shining, Stanley Kubrick's masterpiece. That again, I will say, as much as Jack Nicholson is fantastic, I equally give Shelley Duvall, like her, I see why she was picked. She just really brings Wendy to life as well. But yeah, Natalie's gonna be like, oh my gosh, I may watch this. I kind of plan to maybe watch this movie tonight again. It's the season. It's the season. I watched it last week, but man, it's just so good.
It's a good movie. It's a good movie.
Very good. But Greg, thank you so much for joining me tonight, and of course for recommending the movies anytime I ask. But tell our audience where they can find you, where they can subscribe to you, and what you got coming up.
You can find me at Fanscene Vids. That's my channel, spelled funky because I spelled it weird on purpose, just to be funny. Tonight, I think I'm also doing a live stream with Gary from Pop Culture Minefield and Nadia. We're going to be talking Army of Darkness, with the Bruce Campbell movie. And I'm sure I'll have some videos coming out more this week. And then I do every Wednesday at 9:30, I do the physical media show with Tom from Midnight's Edge. So we just show our physical media for the week.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, go subscribe to Greg's channel. In fact, I will put, after this is finished, I will put his channel link in the description. Go subscribe to him. Greg, again, thank you so much for coming on. And thank you guys for joining us tonight. This will be the last time you see me live before Halloween. We do have our first time watching reaction of Friday the 13th, part 2 coming out Thursday. So be on the lookout for that. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, remember to be a force of light. All right. Bye, guys.
See ya.